Hi, welcome to my eclectic channel. My name is Agnès and I make videos for fun. Today is a sewing studio update kind of video, even though one, I do not have a sewing studio. This is my dining room that I never use, and so that's where I saw. And number two, since I don't have a sewing studio for real, I never talked about it. But the reason I'm really excited is that I did do a big upgrade for me. I got to a point on my sewing journey where I could not proceed without a dress form. Yes, I have been sewing until now. I've made countless alterations. Uh, I've made a few projects from scratch, and it was all without a dress form. So I managed. My skills have improved, and now when I'm eyeing a project where I'm going to be working on the bias. And if you're working on the bias, you're making a dress or a skirt on the bias, an important step is to put it on a form and let it hang for 2 days or so that it can take its final shape. And I can't just like sit there. So I've thought about ways of maybe a hanger, but I thought no, it's time for me to get a dress form. So I've thrifted this one, and she's very special. So I thought I would talk about her a little bit. Right now, Tanya is wearing the Betty dress. I'm publishing this video in the middle of that So Long series. So if you're interested in making the dress, I linked the playlist in the description. If you're watching this video just as it came out, you're going to have to be patient another couple of weeks and you'll have the full series. What I've thrifted is my double from its vintage 1960s, but fully functional. I've seen it advertised more as an art piece, and I had my concerns about it at first. It does look like a torture device from the Middle Ages. I wasn't sure how easy, like how flexible this all was, but it's really ingenious because it's all metal wires, and that metal structure is firm enough that the form can just hold its shape, but flexible enough that you can actually shape it. And it's because they're little diamonds, and you can easily, fairly, it takes a little bit of finger strength, but you can bring in these, you can bring the size of those diamonds to shape as you like it. And then those snaps here, I thought would be really hard to undo, but they're actually leather, hard leather, very, very high quality leather, like the type of material that, I don't know, does not degrade, at least not over the course of 80 years. But no, there you can definitely undo them and open this entire thing. And it comes apart in two halves, because there's a row of buttons in the front, and there's another row in the back. It is not very size inclusive. I am a teeny tiny person, so it looks freakishly tiny. But when I got her, it was not. It was she was quite voluptuous. She looked like Marie Antoinette. She was the bust was over a meter in circumference, which is really respectable. It was very hourglass. I don't think it was a real person. Just whoever was selling it shaped it that way. But it demonstrated that this can be stretched quite a lot. I think in the 1960s, it was probably fitting 98% of the women at the time. In today's world, I would say maybe it would fit about 2/3 of the adult female population. So on the pamphlet, not the pamphlet, but there's an instruction manual that you can purchase. I did not. That describes how to fit it, and the advert too. And it was advertising it as something that you could shape to your own body with the help of, it's interesting, what did it say? The help of your mom, sister, or husband. I don't have any of the above at hand right now. So I had to do this on my own. I had to shape her to my body on my own. And I can tell you how I did it. I did not film the process. It would have been tedious. So I'll just summarize what happened. So as I've mentioned, you unsnap the front and the back, and you get two halves. And it really is a middle-aged torture device when you just put the two halves. And I did one at a time. So I put one half on me. And then the back was already pretty good. So that was approximate. I can't work on the back. So I left it like that. And then I shaped the front to fit my body. And then I did the other half. That was step number one, and it was approximate. And then I put it together, I snapped it, and I had my form. The step number two was to go with a tape measure and all of the key points. So you take any beginner sewing book or look on the internet, and they'll tell you all of the key measurements that you got to do on your body. There's a lot of them. So I took all of them, and I checked all of them on my form, and where it wasn't quite right, I made adjustments. So now, at that point, I had a form that at least matched in all of my measurements. Then after that, and that has been actually an ongoing process, I checked visually for symmetry, and also knowing what my body looks like. I could look at her and think, no, you know what, I'm not that much of an hourglass. So for instance, I was able to figure out that, because you can also do things this way, like sideways, right? So I had to make some adjustments there to make it look more like me, while keeping all the measurements constant to mine. Then, and I've been, the checking visually, and that last step was to put clothes on her. So I've already demonstrated with the Betty dress. This is one that I've made to my measurements. It is non-stretchy, but it molds me. So that was a test. If it fit on her as well as it fit on me. At this point, you're almost done, right? But I've been iterating between those two: visual inspection, making sure things are symmetric, and also putting different garments that I own that are fitted and non-stretchy. So I got her. Like, now Tanya she's my double. She's my double. So it's been really useful to use as a dress form. I'm looking forward to more projects. I can now do things a little easier. So for instance, if it's the first fitting, I'm not gonna bother getting undressed, put my mock-up on. I'll just put it on her, and then I get the broad stroke of what it looks like, the first things to fix. Before moving to the fashion fabric, though, you always do fitting on yourself or on the person for whom the garment is meant, because we're not wires, we're not plastic. It's different. So always do that fitting. But it's really helpful to have another thing that I have not exploited fully yet, because I'm working on a dress right now, and that's my first dress that I'm making with Tanya. But I noticed that I can see how it fits in the back and work on it. Like, I never could do that before. I could kind of like see in the mirror, but it was very imperfect and I could not adjust things. So that, I think, would be really great to have. And as I've mentioned, to work with garments on the bias, that's a must, and that's the reason I got her. One last unexpected use, it's not a use, but it's something that has happened for me. So she really does, I think, I mean, I have scientific evidence that Tanya does mirror my body. I've checked the measurements several times, and she's wearing my clothes and they fit the same way. So I think we have the same body pretty closely. But it's really strange to look at someone else who's got the same body, because I don't view my body like that. So for me, looking at her, she's teeny tiny. I don't have that same notion when I look at myself in the mirror. I don't see myself as teeny tiny. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I don't have body dysmorphia. Like, it's not like I think I'm fat. I know I'm not. But I don't have a real notion of how like a mini woman I am. But when I'm looking at her, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a child. I can I can see how other people are sometimes a little shocked when they meet me. First of all, they're here and then here. So yeah, that's one thing. Second, and this is something that I've known for a long time, but that is really striking now that I have Tanya to look at. The clothes, like I've had a hard time getting clothes to fit right. That's true of everybody, because this is another thing that I have realized by when I started sewing. I've been watching a lot of sewists. A number of them do have dress forms. They make the dress forms to their image, because if you really want things to fit, that's what you need to do. Not one human body is the same. It's foolish to think that the prêt-à-porter, the ready-to-wear, it's completely foolish to think that you're going to have something mass-produced, put it on, and it'll fit. It just, no, they're taking the average, and no one is like that at the very basic level. So some people are closer to the average figure. A lot of us are not. And not just because, I'm not just talking about those of us who are bigger, like even smaller people. We just have so many different body shapes. It's just unlimited. So here's the thing that's funny about Tanya, and the reason why it's really hard, it's been hard for me to really have clothes that fit correctly. Because from the front, if you can see well, but I wouldn't, and by the way, I did the chest. That's another thing when you make a dress form. Tanya is my padded bra version, because I'm always, unless it's a really little summer top, or occasionally I'll go commando like Prades, but I'm always padding because it's clothes fit better, because I've been buying prêt-à-porter, and prêt-à-porter is made for women who have boobs, and so I put on boobs when I wear clothes. So this is my padded bra version. So you can't quite call it an hourglass, but it kind of is. It's somewhere between a rectangle, someone who doesn't have too much in the hips, doesn't have too much in the chest, has a little wider waist compared to the chest and the hips. Okay, long story short, not really an hourglass, but not too far off. When you look at that, you're like, no, this person should find clothes that fit. You would think, and would look nice. Like, you're like, yeah, this is, like, if I have a body like that, like, this is super easy to dress. She'll look good no matter what she wears. Okay, hourglass from the front. Yeah. Not an hourglass from the side. What is this? Like pear-shaped? I don't even know what to call it. So one, clothes don't fit quite right, and two, they look funky. So this requires a bit of skill to get it to look right. It's not canonical. It's not what people in the modern days think of pretty. I'm thinking this might be a little more 1920s. Like, I think maybe that's the kind of body shape that they were achieving with undergarments. So that was a very interesting journey. I knew this about myself, but again, looking at it, I'm like, what is this, an alien? I don't have a stand for Tanya. I think the original one, I looked on the internet, I found kind of new ones, maybe reproductions. It's called My Double Industrial Form. It's out of stock. But they do sell it with all of the hardware, and then if you have a stand, you can put it on. So I would have to do something clever. I thought maybe even a hanger. This is another thing. It's really light. But so far I've been putting her on a stool. So that's Tanya. And Tanya, I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like.